Minecraft recently released 1.21, which added tons of new blocks and mobs, but it also added trial chambers, a vast complex structure. However, they're underground. So I decided to drag one to the surface and give it a renovation. I wanted to envision what the trial chambers could look like on the outside. So I booted up a new world, located a trial chamber, then used the World Edit mod to extract the chamber and move it to a flatter location. So here's our trial chamber. I went ahead and buried it slightly just to be a little bit easier to build this because honestly, these are massive chunks. Look how big these rectangles are. This is gonna be a lot to cover up. I went ahead and located some of our entrances. We've got a couple of grate-filled ones, this small one down here with a little door. And then over on this side, we've got this above ground one. It just drops us right down into the chamber. I think this entrance and the door one over there are intended to be the actual entrances to this place. But we're going to go ahead and treat all 4 of these as if they're the entrances. Mojang used 4 driving factors when creating the trial chambers. 1, the overall approach of not building lore into their structures in order to drive player creativity. 2 and 3 were their design goals, of learning through doing, and they wanted to invoke feelings of curiosity and overcoming adversity. And number 4, they were adamant that the trial chambers would not be exposed to the surface of the overworld. But we're ignoring that and doing it anyway. According to the videos that the Minecraft YouTube team has released, the developers were really inspired by earlier Mesoamerican architecture. They wanted the trial chambers to be this blend of old civilization and this futuristic tinkery feel. So we're going to hone in on those vibes in order to drive this design. Now, to explain the ideas I've sketched out here real quick, I really wanted to hone in on the mass and geometry that the Mesoamerican architecture provides. So I pulled a bunch of temple references in order to drive our design here. This is going to be very much a build from the top down style, because honestly, there is no accounting for how big this is going to be. But one thing that I really wanted to focus on is the fact that the only entrances from the ground level here, they all lead to the actual entrances of the trial chambers. So the architecture will drive the player towards these entrances. But I mean, if they want to crack into the side of this, of course they can. These are just a few sketched out ideas. It may not look like this in the end, but at least we know where to start. So with this in hand, let's get to work. One thing that I wanted to focus on this build is using only tuff and copper blocks. This is the look they used inside the chamber, so the outside should reflect that. The update gave us a lot of new blocks to work with, especially when it came to expanding on the tuff. They gave us raw, polished, and brick types of both slabs, stairs, walls, and even some chiseled. Very few of the stone variants actually use all of those. The only exceptions being deep slate, normal stone, and black stone. But who knows, maybe they'll expand on the other stones in future updates. But for today's build, we're focusing on the tuff and the copper. And I am so excited to use these new copper blocks. They're absolutely beautiful. And there we go! It's all finished. Oh, wow. This turned out so much better than I was expecting, to be honest. This was really fun to do, but also really difficult. I faced a lot of challenge in this with breaking up the mass of the structure into like smaller human-scaled parts, but I really wanted just a bunch of little points of interest that just brings your eye all over this entire build. In doing this, I can definitely see why they wanted to keep the trial chambers underground, because having this above ground really limits the variability between the trial chambers. In making an exterior for this, I had to stitch together all of the different sections into a cohesive whole, which honestly doesn't work if the size, shape, and even placement of each of these individual chambers that are covered up in here, if they just generate in random configurations. Like, I wouldn't have that big old thing over there just slapped onto the side over here. I would have to completely redesign how this entire layout works if even one of these was in a different position. And I tried not to add like any gradients or too many details or anything. I really wanted to keep this feeling more like a vanilla structure. But I really wanted to lean into the definitive two-tone of copper, just because that's what they have in the inside already. They have the oxidized copper and they have copper. They don't have the weathered or the other one. So I wanted to keep it strictly those two. Aside from all the little details, of course. I used a lot of the weathered for a bunch of random details. I'm not even sure what that's supposed to be. I think these are like birds or people or something. I don't know, I was just having fun with this. But I added a few of those just lying around the place. Like, look, that one's a frog. And at the very top here, it's a crab. I even made little fox structures. I think they're foxes. I'm not really sure. They've got tails and ears and a nose. We're gonna call them foxes. I think that's about it. Overall, I'm really happy with how well this came out. It was a bit of a struggle at times figuring out how to break this up and how to make it look like a cohesive whole, but in my opinion, it turned out pretty good. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more like this, I've got a build series called Build Breakdown, which honestly gets into the weeds a lot more on the actual architectural side of this, but it's also Minecraft building. So if you want to see more, go check that out. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go finally run this chamber. Hope to see you next time, and thanks for watching.